Good morning, class 10, and welcome to your political science class. So, students, in our last class, we began with the last chapter from your textbook, that is Outcomes of Democracy. So, we began this chapter right in the month of September because you all know that this is also a part of your half yearly, and you all need to study well for this as well. So, we will continue with the second topic of this chapter today. But before moving on to the second topic, let us quickly recall about whatever we studied in the last class in a very brief manner. So, in the last class, we tried to question ourselves as to how we can assess democracy's outcome. In what way can we say that democracy is a better form of government in comparison to any other alternative kind of governments in the world? And we felt that democracy was much better. It is, in fact, the best because number one, it promotes equality among citizens. Number two, it enhances the dignity of the individuals. Then it improves the quality of decision making. Number four, it provides a method to conflict resolution. And lastly, it allows room to correct the mistakes. So these are the various characteristics of democracy which makes it the best form of government and the most acceptable form of government than any other form of government in the world, isn't it? So there are many countries in the world who claim that they are democratic, and they claim to practice certain kind of democratic policies. So they hold elections, for example, they guarantee rights to the citizens, etc. So these features are common to almost all the democracies in the world, isn't it? But of course, whether these um, characteristics or these kind of practices which are done in a democracy, we are not very sure whether or not we are achieving well under democracy, isn't it? So there is something that we accept from a democracy, but can we accept from a democracy everything good just because it is the best form of government? Is it just because we feel that democracy is the best, there is nothing else? But definitely no. Democracy is not only best because we imagine it to be the best, but actually it is the best because it gives us certain opportunities to be the best, isn't it? So we, the citizens, have to take advantages of all the conditions, of all the platforms that the government of India has given us, or rather, any democratic country in the world has given the citizens. And in that manner, we have to take advantage of these conditions and ultimately achieve our aims and aspirations to live a life in a democratic manner, in a free manner. So today, students, we are going to discuss about another aspect through which we can assess democracy's outcomes, and that is accountable, responsive, and legitimate government. And these are the terms which makes a government, rather a democratic government, what it is today. These are the things that make us feel that democracy is the best form of government. It is accountable, that means it is responsible. It is responsive, it means that it takes into account public opinions. And finally, it is legitimate. That means it is backed by law and it works for the betterment and welfare of the people at large. All right. So, when we talk about a democratic government, we feel that there are certain things that a democratic government should ensure the people, isn't it? It should ensure that we are given the right to choose our rulers. It will ensure that people have got control over the rulers, etc. So, whenever possible and necessary, citizens should be able to participate in the decision making that affects them all. So, these are some of the criteria which makes us feel that democracy should give the people. And the most basic outcome of democracy should be that it produces a government which is accountable to the citizens, which is responsible to the needs, and also which are able to fulfill the expectations of the citizens. So, just expecting from democracy is not enough. We have to make sure that the government is accountable, responsive, and ultimately legitimate. It works legitimately. All right. So, before we go into the question, is democratic government efficient? Is it effective? Let us try to understand something else. So, should people think that democracy produces less effective government? Do you think that in a democracy, the people chooses their representatives undoubtedly, but thus democracy produces a less effective government than others. It is, of course, true that in certain non democratic countries where there are non democratic rulers who come to power not by people's choice but by force, they do not have to bother about discussions in the parliament or the assemblies. They do not need to worry about what the public thinks. They take quick and efficient decisions and finally implement it on their own. But democracy is not like this. Democracy is based on the idea of deliberation and negotiation. So there may be some delay in taking a decision, but does this delay makes the democratic government inefficient? I don't think so. Let us imagine a non democratic government where decisions are taken very quickly without taking into consideration the public opinion, without taking into consideration about the other ministers you know discussions and debates. So just let us imagine a government like that. So in such kind of a government, the decisions may be made quickly, but they might not be accepted by the common people. The common people, because of such a quick decision by the ruler, the common people may face problem. So this is something that a democratic government does not allow. In a democratic government, it takes a lot of time to follow certain procedures and arrive at a decision. And because there are certain procedures which are followed, decisions are fine. They are delayed, but they are acceptable more by the people, and also they're proven to be more effective. So the cost of time that democracy pay is perhaps worth it. So all the time that is wasted in negotiation and discussion, it is worth that time, because ultimately the decision that is taken is effective, and mostly people are in support of it, because whatever policies and decisions are made, they are done on the basis of the public opinion. Again, let us look at the other side. Democracy ensures that decision making will be based on norms and procedure. So, a citizen who wants to know if the decision was taken through the correct procedure can find this out. She has the right and the means to examine the process of decision making. This is known as transparency. So, transparency is a very important process seen in the democratic country. So, in a democratic country, if you want to see the various norms and procedure through which a minister is making a decision, through which somebody is making and implementing what do you call it a decision or a policy, we the common people have the full right to watch over it. This is known as transparency, and this feature of transparency is found only in a democratic country. Non democratic governments do not have this situation. Okay, and that is why we can definitely say that democratic governments are accountable governments. They take into account the views of the citizens, and whenever necessary they are also answerable to the citizens. That is why there is transparency in our system. So there is the act of RTI, Right to Information Act. According to this act, we can find out which in which sector how much money is being implemented, how much tax is being collected. Everything transparently can be seen by us. This is called transparency, and this is definitely one of the most important features of a democratic country, which undoubtedly makes it the best form of government compared to others. So hence we can say that a democratic government is definitely accountable to the people. Next, if you wanted to measure democracy on the basis of the expected outcome, you would look for the following practice and institutions: regular, free, and fair elections, open public debate on major policies and legislations, and citizens' right to information about the government and functioning. The actual performance of democracy, it shows a mixed record. So, in democracies, definitely there are regular and free elections, but there might not be a free chance for everybody to be a part of it. But of course, whatever be the thing, ultimately it is only in a democratic regime that we find all these things as mentioned, and it is definitely therefore better than the non democratic regimes. So, next, So there is an expectation from the people in a democracy that a government, a democratic government, has to be attentive to the needs and demands and aspirations of the people and is greatly free from corruption. But of course, this expectation of the people has not been fulfilled by democratic countries in the world, mostly. Okay, so mostly the record of democracy is not very impressive, is not very positive on two main counts. First of all, democracies often frustrate the need of the people and often ignore the demands of the majority of its population. So this is the first reason as to why democratic countries does not have a very good name at times. Then next, there is the evil of corruption, which is definitely, you know, very much prevalent in all democratic societies. So these are the two things that make democracies, that makes democracies leave a negative impact on the people. Then again, there is another aspect which proves democracy to be better than the alternatives. Democratic government is said to be a legitimate government. It is slow, fine, it is less efficient at times. It is not always responsive, but a democratic government is the people's own government. So people, therefore, support the idea of democracy all over the world because they feel that it is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. People wish to be ruled by the representatives who are elected by them. They believe that a democracy is the best for their country because the people of their country are going to elect somebody on their behalf. Then democracy's ability to generate its own support in itself as an outcome, it cannot be ignored. So hence, from this discussion overall till now, we have understood that democracy is definitely accountable, it is responsive, and also it is legitimate, isn't it? So that's all, dear students. I tried to explain everything very briefly, but if there is any room for any doubt, please let me know during the live class, which is tomorrow. So, tomorrow we will be coming back to this topic and discussing it in short, and then we will move on to the next topic from this chapter, which is economic growth and development. All right. So we will come to this tomorrow, and also we will come back to today's topic if you feel like during our live class. So till then, go through the book properly and remember to do your homework, which is assigned in Google Classroom. So that's all for today, dear students. Thank you.